Feel free to ask any questions you might have. My face got in the camera, but yeah, I'll answer. I'm just muted for conversation in the background purposes. I'm using Hansa Yellow today, which I've never really used. Um, I'm trying to find like alternatives to cadmium at the moment. Um, I don't really think it's that necessary, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about the kind of performance idea just to myself, so don't feel the need to respond, but I might use this in a video later this week. Um, I have been thinking about um, I've been thinking about like the way these paintings exist and how I keep trying to like take away from it. I keep trying to take like uh, the importance away from it by using cardboard or take the tools that I have out of my toolbox. So I just use these like cheap one brush a painting, and I reuse the same brush for every painting so far. And that like by kind of reducing the studio element to these paintings, I'm creating this object or this process that's like continually being brought back to itself, which I feel kind of bad about because painting has like a pretty harsh history of like being completely self-referential all the time. Um, but it's important to me to try and think about it in a more, or to try and like activate the process of painting, because like that's what I've always been attracted to in paint. Like the people who communicate best about the reasons I love painting are dancers, are people that move and like function in the world and think about vision as like a response to space. more so than people who think about it as a vehicle for communication. And I'm just trying to kind of figure out where this goes. And the way I've done that right now, like this week, I started thinking about it as like, how can I create a system for viewing the art, or like how can I make it so that it's more easily received as a performance, because that's where I feel this work is leading. Is it's more about the act or the action or my actions and me as the actor than about these like paintings. So I started just painting on this one panel for days now, and I realized there were some problems with this, like how do I remove the panel as a commodity, or like how do I limit that, because like this is where it gets complicated, because there's so many things that I feel responsible to, especially lately, especially while doing paintings about my identity, my like relationship to my masculinity, my relationship to my race, and like all the privileges and like really kind of painful atrocities that have been committed by people who look like me, and that like doing performance work, you know, like right now I'm working through the process of what my painting means to me. Like what is it, like what is the accent, like what is this procedural like self-referential act doing when it what is this procedural self-referential act doing when I am like engaged with all of these other topics and like all of these other like social problems. This is really hard to talk about with yourself. I'm trying to kind of I'm like right now I'm doing like the like brainstorming process of an essay or something to YouTube, and I think I guess what the issue that I'm trying to get to right now, there's so much ahead of me in this journey, but the first thing I want to tackle is what is my connection to value as a painter. Like why painting? What am I doing to like how what is my language? That's what I'm trying to get to. Is like, what is my language when I'm working with an artwork or a performance or myself, or even just like acting in this world right now, this like kind of crazy world we have. How do I become as fluent as possible in my community as an artist, and then I can start understanding how to contribute. And I guess that's where I'm going right now, is I've started this system of evaluating my painting practice with its own value. So that's very confusing, but these paintings, they are kind of, they're successive. So like each painting goes right on top of the last one on this panel, and I'm going to keep doing this until I sell the panel, which might not be for a while, or it might be soon, or it might be never, but I'll just keep painting different objects in my hand on this panel until something happens. And the idea is that what someone would be purchasing is the panel and one more session. So you're not purchasing the image per se, because it changes drastically every single day, but you're putting an end to the cycle by purchasing it. And I am keeping the value really low. So most of my other paintings I've sold for not much, but still more than I'd like to. I've sold for like valuing my time into the product, and then also it's like kind of emblematic essence as a like commodity as art, because like art is always kind of hyper valued. So I've sold it like $700 to $1,000 is my going rate, and now I'm like, I kind of want to keep this in an accessible range. Though what's interesting to me is that the way that I have it priced is it's like $25 to start on like the first session, and then each session after that gains $5. So right now this is at $55, or this one's $60 for the next session, which would end that cycle. And by doing this, there seems to be some sort of, like, for me, I want to relinquish my contribution to like the painting as what values it. So like the image itself, like, is not what's creating value, but it's more like my actions, who I am, the brand behind it, the interest, the divisiveness of painting, is what's behind the system, or like the growth of this painting itself. And I'm still kind of there at the beginning of it. I want to kind of understand it better, but the best way to start anything is just to do it. You know, outline some criteria and put it online for your audience. That's how I learn the best, at least, is through other people telling me what I'm doing. I'd be curious to know what you think. Yeah. Or anyone who might be watching this in the future, definitely leave a comment. I'll probably have something a little more solid written up on my website, or like in a video soon. That's the goal, at least. This is like how I'm starting to think out my theories, is by painting and talking at the same time, rambling. I'm this blue, so like I have ultramarine blue and then Payne's gray that I use for drawing purposes. And what's interesting about these like live stream paintings is I get like caught up talking, and then I'm like trying to figure out where my drawing went, so then I end up redrawing everything. But a lot of times when I'm drawing with paint, it's more like drawing space or something. It's not necessarily something like that. Yeah. So I'm like creating space by. Sorry, I paused because I was trying to figure out audio for a second. Um, the I'm trying to push and pull space in some space. I'm trying to push and pull space in this painting in like each day when it gets more and more kind of muddled. I'm like, what can I do to gain something back? You can tell in this camera there's like not a lot of clarity for some reason. It's like, I think it's just the light, the flashed light, but on Instagram you'll see like a better quality image of what I'm painting. But I think mostly in like terms of temperature or line, I never really go like I think mostly in terms of temperature, value, or line. I never kind of combine those, and I think that just is because that's the way I use paint. Like I use it in dabs or like marks. I don't use it in like any like indirect manner. Yeah, if I zone out, it's just because the painting got me for a second. And yeah, if you message me, I'll respond. But if I stop talking and start painting more, it's just paint. The messier the painting gets, the less I use white, or like the more I avoid like throwing white on my palette. But sometimes I get to a point where like certain colors just need it. It's interesting too because the less I have to use of a certain color, the more like muddy or like the more colors are evident on the painting. So each day it gets like more and more ephemeral, and like every mark has a massive impact. Kira is sitting over in her chair, and I'm gonna try to block her in really quickly. Sorry, it's hard to see, so I keep putting my head into the camera. There's like a lot of glare. Less glare, more brightness on me. That's probably the way I should have had it the whole time. Oh, no, I'm good. I only loosely blocked you in. Yeah, there were some weird technical difficulties at the beginning of this stream where like my computer wouldn't load two programs at once. I think one of my RAM might be loose. Also, I downloaded some stuff recently that I don't know. Like, I took the audio from a YouTube track using a website, and I don't know about that. But then but then it's like all off my computer, so I'm just gonna go through and check everything after this. There's like a nice warmth in this cool dark that I really want to bring out. So I'm probably gonna stop this painting soon, but I'm going to make a episode of Earworked on my channel this week. that kind of goes into more depth about what I was talking about, just after I've done a little more thinking, and try to kind of like explain what I'm doing. But yeah. Like, I keep seeing things and I'm like, oh, it's not spoken about yet. Okay. I say I'm almost done and then I add more paint to my palette. Okay, yeah. My palette is starting to get sufficiently gray, so I think I'm going to stop for today. You can check this out on Instagram, David C. Burr. This, yeah, and feel free to comment after this is uploaded, or you have like 2 seconds right now to say anything, or on Instagram.